When my family chose a concert over my triumph, I'm Paul, 27, and I've always been the quiet one in my family. The dependable one who never stirred trouble, but never seemed to earn recognition either. My parents and younger brother Caleb orbited each other, loud and demanding, always placing me in whatever role suited them. I told myself it didn't bother me, that staying in the background kept me out of their chaos. But being unseen in your own home gnaws at you until it's all you can think about. Caleb, 2 years my junior, was the golden child from the moment he kicked a soccer ball. My parents attended every game, cheering wildly and hosting parties for his victories. My good grades, a nod and a "that's expected." Caleb's single goal in a losing match, a full-blown celebration. Birthdays followed the same pattern. His were filled with balloons, lavish cakes, and extravagant gifts. Mine were quiet dinners and maybe an unwanted sweater. It wasn't the lack of material things that stung. It was the message that my efforts were ordinary while his were extraordinary. I tried to brush it off to be the supportive brother, but deep down, a quiet ache grew. I pushed through college, internships, and late nights on projects my family never asked about. Caleb partied through university while I worked tirelessly. I told myself it would matter someday, even if they didn't see it. That day arrived when I was nominated for a prestigious award in my field, a career-defining honor. For once, something big bore my name. Despite my doubts, I texted the family group chat, "I'm receiving an award tonight. It'd mean a lot if you could come." I hesitated before sending, knowing how it might end, yet hoping they'd surprise me. Caleb's reply came instantly, "We're going to a concert instead." No pause, no questions about the award, just a concert for some band he'd forget soon. Before I could process the sting, Mom chimed in. "Don't guilt us, Paul," as if my request was a burden. I stared at my phone, my chest tight, heat rising in my throat. I wanted to scream, to ask why I never mattered. Instead, I typed 2 words, "all right." But those words weren't surrender. Something shifted in me. I wasn't a kid craving their approval anymore. That night, I'd stand before a crowd that valued my work while my family stayed where they wanted to be, at a concert. What they didn't know was that this wasn't a small event. It was to be broadcast live, not just online but on national television, with cameras, interviews, and all. My name, my face, my story would be seen by thousands. They'd made me invisible for years, but tonight they'd have no choice but to see me. That afternoon, I paced my apartment, wrestling with whether to push them harder to come. Should I explain how much this meant? Should I stay silent? Beneath the turmoil, a strange calm emerged, as if I stood on the edge of something bigger than their neglect. The award was one thing, but the real transformation was inside me. I wasn't just surviving their absence. I was letting it fuel me. Every ignored milestone, every dismissive comment, every shrug at my achievements had built to this moment. As I dressed in a suit I'd saved for months to buy, my phone buzzed. Caleb sent a photo from the concert venue, grinning with friends, captioned "Best night ever." Mom hearted it. Dad wrote, "Enjoy it, you deserve it." Deserve. The word echoed painfully. Caleb deserved everything, apparently, while I was expected to nod along. I set the phone down, took a deep breath, and left for the ceremony. In the cab, the city lights blurred past, alive with energy, while I felt heavy. That group chat replayed in my mind. Caleb's laughter, Mom's cheers, Dad's rare praise, none of it for me. It wasn't new, but it cut deeper than ever. My parents always compared me to Caleb, and I never measured up. When I earned a college scholarship, they said, "That's nice, Paul, but don't brag." Caleb's still finding his way. When Caleb joined a minor league soccer team, they acted like he'd signed with a world-class club. I remember one Christmas when I saved up to buy Dad a watch he'd wanted. He smiled politely and set it aside. Later, Caleb gave him a cheap soccer-themed keychain, and Dad clipped it to his keys, beaming, "Now this is special." Everyone laughed, praising Caleb's thoughtfulness, while I swallowed the lump in my throat. As we grew older, it only worsened. When Caleb crashed his car after a night out, my parents rushed to comfort him, bought him a new one, and said, "Mistakes happen." When my car broke down from overuse, Dad sighed, "You should have planned better, Paul. No help, no sympathy, just disappointment." Still, I kept hoping they'd one day cheer for me, that they'd sit in an audience, clapping until their hands hurt. That's why this award mattered. It wasn't just validation from strangers, it was proof my choices, my work, my life had value. But they didn't want to see it. Not because they couldn't, but because Caleb's shine was easier to bask in. He was loud, charming, and messy in a way they found endearing. I was steady, a reminder of responsibilities they didn't want to face. A month before the ceremony, I visited home, hoping to connect. Instead, I found the mantle covered with Caleb's trophies, medals, and photos. My graduation picture? Gone. Mom shrugged. We needed space. It's in a drawer. Like my existence could be tucked away. So when I saw their group chat messages that night, I knew I'd been clinging to a fantasy. They weren't coming. They never would. The ceremony wasn't for them, it was for me. But a small, sharp part of me wanted them to witness it, to have no way to look away. The cab pulled up to the venue, lights flashing, reporters lining the entrance. My stomach churned. This was real. As I adjusted my tie and stepped onto the carpet, I could almost hear Caleb's voice. Don't guilt us. Mom's echo, we're busy. Dad's word, deserve. But tonight, I'd show what I truly deserved. The organizers had a surprise. The event wasn't just local, it was airing nationally. My name, my story, would reach far beyond what I'd imagined. I smiled through the ache in my chest. For years, they diminished me. Tonight, everything would change, not because they chose it, but because they couldn't avoid it. At the check-in, I stared at my phone, tempted to send one last message. It's televised. But I stopped. Let them learn with the rest of the country. I pocketed my phone, squared my shoulders, and walked inside. The ceremony felt surreal, cameras sweeping the crowd, lights dazzling, people in elegant attire buzzing with excitement. My badge read Paul Harrison, nominee. Its weight felt heavier than the award itself. Just before the event began, I checked my phone again. Caleb had posted more concert photos, grinning with friends, captioned best night of my life. Mom wrote, so proud of you, sweetheart, with clapping emojis. Dad added, you earned this, son. Nothing like making memories. That was the knife. They weren't just absent. They were celebrating Caleb's fleeting night while I sat alone, ready for the biggest moment of my life. My hands shook as I set the phone down. The betrayal wasn't just their absence. It was their choice to pour pride and love elsewhere. I wasn't a kid anymore, begging for their attention. I was a man in a room of people who valued me, while my family cheered for someone else's life. As the lights dimmed and the music swelled, my focus should have been on the stage, but all I saw was that group chat. The sting turned to a burn, then something sharper. My trust in them, whatever was left, dissolved. When they called my name, I walked to the stage, gripping the award, lights blinding, the crowd giving a standing ovation. I spoke, though I barely heard myself. People later said my speech was inspiring, but my mind was elsewhere, on the silence of those who should have been there. As I held the award, a part of me broke, the part that still hoped for their pride. That kid died quietly on stage. The night ended with photos, interviews, and congratulations. Everyone saw a bright future for me, but back in my apartment, the walls felt colder than ever. I set the award on my desk and stared. It should have felt like triumph, but it tasted like ash. I checked my phone, more concert posts from Caleb, more fawning from my parents. Not a word about me. No good luck, no how'd it go? Nothing. I lay on my couch, staring at the ceiling, hollowed out. That was my rock bottom, not sadness, but a heavy, resigned silence when you stop fighting reality. In that silence, something sparked, sharp and clear. I'd wasted years chasing their validation. Every time I downplayed my successes to avoid outshining Caleb, every time I helped with chores while he partied, every time I stayed quiet to keep the peace. It all replayed like a bitter reel. I was done, not just disappointed, finished. I began to plan, not for revenge, but for distance. How could I build a life so far beyond them that they couldn't touch it? The answer wasn't clear yet, but the shift had begun. That award wasn't just a trophy, it was a reminder I didn't need them to shine. The weeks after were brutal. Ignoring their calls, muting their texts, it felt like tearing myself apart. I'd been trained to crave their approval, so stepping away was agonizing. But every time I reached for my phone, I stopped. They didn't notice. Mom sent casual texts, mostly about Caleb. Dad forwarded articles, never asking about my work. Caleb posted his usual nightlife photos. No one mentioned the award. In that oppressive silence I built, I threw myself into work, not as escape, but as purpose. I took meetings I'd once avoided, connected with mentors, and seized opportunities that scared me. Each night I told myself, this is for me. But another voice whispered, one day they'll see. That thought wasn't spite, it was clarity. I wasn't plotting their downfall, but I was done shielding them from my truth. I stopped softening my edges to fit their narrative. Success began to snowball. The award opened doors, companies reached out, mentors called, and colleagues sought my input. I moved to a sleek apartment with city views, dressed sharper, carried myself taller. People noticed, strangers at events, peers, even mentors who now saw me as an equal. My family. Still oblivious, stuck in their Caleb-centric world, unable to see beyond his familiar glow. I stopped craving their attention and embraced a new power, chosen invisibility. I kept conversations short, polite, uninformative. When Dad asked if I could help Caleb with rent, I said I can't and left it there. No apologies, no over-explaining. They didn't push, assuming I was still the same reliable Paul, always there when they needed something. They had no idea how much I'd changed. Within a year, my name gained traction. Conference invitations, articles, panels alongside industry giants, it all piled up. Each time I saw my name in print or held a microphone, the weight of years in the shadows lifted. But alone in my apartment, I wondered, what would they say if they knew? Would they try to make it about Caleb? The thought didn't hurt anymore, it fueled me. The turning point came with an invitation to a national gala, bigger than anything before, a televised event honoring innovators across industries. Holding the embossed envelope, I laughed, not from humor but from fate's irony. This was unavoidable, a spotlight too bright to ignore. I didn't tell my family. Let them cheer Caleb's latest game. Let them think I was still just getting by. When the night came, they'd learn with everyone else. The real groundwork began months earlier. A media conglomerate I'd worked with saw value not just in my expertise but in my story. An executive said, "Paul, people don't just admire your work, they connect with you. Have you thought about a bigger platform?" That stuck. My years of being overlooked could be fuel. I started sharing my story in interviews, resilience being underestimated, thriving in silence. I didn't name my family, but I didn't need to. People emailed me. I felt invisible too. You gave me hope. I wasn't just climbing for myself anymore, I was amplifying others. My family remained clueless. Calls revolved around Caleb's games, his new girlfriend, his plans that went nowhere. When Dad asked if I was still doing the same work, I nearly laughed. He didn't know I'd been promoted twice or featured in major outlets. Mom said Caleb missed me as if I were the one drifting. I let them stay blind, wielding silence like a blade. Then came the gala's game changer. They wanted me to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award for my pioneering work, absurd at 27 but real. More than that, they wanted to feature my story on the broadcast, not just my work but my journey. My chest tightened. I pictured my family flipping channels, seeing me on their screen, hearing my truth not as a private plea but a public narrative. I agreed. The gala night arrived, heavy and electric. In my hotel room, adjusting my suit, I wasn't dressing for anyone else. Not my parents, not Caleb, not even the audience. This was for me, for the kid who sat silently while others praised Caleb. The venue was a spectacle, lights soaring, cameras poised. I stood on the edge of something massive, ready to step into a spotlight I'd earned. My family would see it, not because I asked, but because the world would make them. And when that moment came, the balance between us would shift forever. Thank you for watching my story. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and press the bell icon. Stay tuned for more real-life stories, get more experiences.